Hello, everybody. Tom Canning here. It is the Berkshire Football Awards 2025 preview show. I want to say we do this every year, but we don't. I have been joined by our awards night host, Paul Watson, live from somewhere in the southwest. Hello, Paul Watson.
Hi. Well, it's true. I'm somewhere in the southwest. I'm in Gloucestershire. So, yeah, like close enough, but not so close that I'm in Wiltshire, where I'd be getting booed right now, I imagine.
Indeed. Wiltshire, Oxfordshire, Buckinghamshire, boo, all of those. Hampshire we're just about okay with. They're all right.
Yeah.
You've got to go through Hampshire to get abroad, so...
Yeah, you kind of got to be all right with them, haven't you? But yeah, I'm, and also we have a shared rival, don't we? In terms of we're all booing Swindon.
Oh yes, quite right too. Although I want my first live football match was at Swindon Town, so I can't get too unhappy about it.
Yeah, well, as a Swindon, not a fan per se, but like you were in the Swindon home end.
So we were in the home end. My best friend at primary school, his dad was a Swindon Town fan. His dad sadly passed away. Now this would have been late last year. Absolutely lovely man. But he took it up. My dad, my family are not or were not football supporters or football fans. But my friend's dad, Martin, took his dad, Clive, took me and him to my first game, which was at Swindon Town versus Notts County, and it was 5-1 to Swindon.
Wow!
So it was a really great. It was back as well when Notts County played in that the black and white stripes with the yellow on it, which was made quite an impact on me, that kit.
Wow! So you actually had a really good opening game. I'm not surprised you stuck with football. I think mine was Bristol City 0, Oxford 0 in the Anglo-Italian Cup group stage.
Hang on, Anglo-Italian Cup group stage, and you played Oxford.
I'm pretty sure it was Oxford, because obviously there were English teams in groups with other English teams. So we must. I actually have this feeling that year, and maybe always, there was a round you had to get through to get any Italian teams, and we didn't get through it. So I don't remember us playing any Italian teams. Even at that age, I'd have been really excited by that.
Yeah.
But I remember I got to go to this game because it was basically free, because they were desperate. I think it was a kid for a quid kind of situation. Yeah. They were desperate to get people to go to this game. It was dreary. I mean, pretty much all the games I used to watch in those days were really bad, but somehow football stuck. Somehow.
Yeah. I do remember as well, actually, I had quite the introduction to live football, because we were there, and then at the end they announced there was going to be a fire drill. So everybody, after the game, there was going to be a fire drill. So everybody had to, I'm sure it was after the game, it may have been during or before the game, I'm not sure. Anyway, you had to evacuate the stand down and then go onto the pitch.
What?
And so I'm there just touching the county ground turf like it was the just like it was hallowed turf that I'd never even entered my mindset as a thing to go to. But
I love that you think this was just a normal event. Yeah, you sort of see people who've been to a game and be like, "Yeah, how's the pitch? How's the fire drill afterwards?"
Yeah. Best one I've been to. Yeah, God, absolutely.
What a great first game!
Yeah. It certainly was better than the old fire drills we used to have at the Canary Wharf Tower, up on floor 22, and you've got to walk down, I don't know, 30 odd flights of stairs, and you'd think walking downstairs is way away from where I wanted to go with this podcast today. But you'd think walking down flights of stairs, that's fairly easy, right? But by the time you're at the bottom, you are sore.
Yeah, that's the irony, isn't it? You're never happy going up or down.
No.
Up would have been worse, though, wouldn't it? But,
yeah.
Strange fire drill where you're going up the stairs.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where they don't make you go back up the stairs, which I was always thankful for. Paul, obviously, you are joining us on the 18th of June back at Double Barrel Brewery. Probably your favourite probably your favourite Berkshire brewery, I presume.
Yeah, it is. It's one of my favourite breweries, full stop, to be honest. And I feel bad because there's a great brewery here called Stroud Brewery, which
Oh, yes.
is lovely. And I'm not going to say if it's better or worse, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It was a great event last year. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't totally sure what to expect in advance, but just such a nice, welcoming atmosphere. And yeah, it was like honestly one of the highlights of my summer last year.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say, Paul. Before we get too pally, I wanted to ask you, and we got some real proper Paul Watson questions later. If anybody's tuning in for Paul Watson and to hear what Paul Watson thinks about the state of football around the world, but if you'll just allow us 10 minutes or so just to go through some awards admin, that would be really good of everybody. Paul, categories this year. Which one are you looking forward most to discovering the winner of? And just so everybody knows, Paul has been sent all of the full shortlist with everything that everybody has said about everybody and everything on the shortlist. Paul does not yet know the winners. I know the winners.
I don't have the opportunity to give away who's won this year, which I'm quite relieved at, because there's something about that knowledge that you sort of are walking around thinking, just don't give it away.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I've been watching the YouTube clips of the goal of the season. And wow, there are some hits, and well, not even just hits. There's one incredible individual goal and a couple of real belting hits in that one. And I was playing these in the kitchen yesterday, and my little boys, they're 8 and 4. Neither of them are massive football fans. Were just watching these YouTube clips again and again on repeat because they're just really good goals, aren't they?
They really are. Anas's goal for Ascot is tremendous. Megan's goal as well. Megan's goal for Maidenhead, there is an absolute belter. I think the second camera angle from behind the goal as well, which just makes it look. So many of the goals that you often, especially in non-league and sort of in the women's game, when they're hit from far out, it's often okay, great, it's going goalwards, and then the goalkeeper is just sort of flapping at it or just completely all at sea, and that takes it away from me. I think this is. I think what it matters what the goalkeeper does, and in that one, the goalkeeper's making every effort.
Yeah, it's hard to falter, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
an absolute blast, isn't it? From the moment it leaves her foot, you're like, oh wow, okay, where's this going? Whereas, yeah, Anas's goal, it reminded me. I don't know if you remember Paulo Wanchope,
Yes.
Wanchope, the Costa Rican, and you just have the ball on his foot, and just no one could get it for the whole sort of minutes. And it was like that. Every single person he goes past, you're like, no, surely not. He's not going to actually take this all the way. So those are great sort of counterpoints, those two, the brilliant sort of dribbly, mazy individual goal, and then the absolute rocket where you just think the feeling, I would give anything for that feeling of that coming off my foot and just thinking, I don't know, I know I've never hit a ball like either Megan's or Alex Woodhead's either. I've never hit a ball like that. I would love to hit a ball like that one day in my life, and I don't think it's going to happen now at 41.
It is, yeah. When you just know you've connected. So and as I say, a bit like you, certainly for me, infrequently, 5-a-side, 7-a-side, I play every week, and maybe once in 20 weeks I'll connect, and there's no rhyme or reason because I don't practice and I don't, it's just the foot has swung at the right moment. It's complete fluke, but hey,
yeah, and I think that's the funniest thing, isn't it? That dream that for no reason you're going to suddenly just make a beautiful connection with a shot, or that your talent, suddenly your talent will improve at football, despite the fact there's no reason that should happen.
No.
I still live in hope of that. And a lot of the time when I see an amazing goal, I think, yeah, that's what I pictured in my head when I hit that one last week. But in reality, I was the one apologising, climbing over a fence, running through the field to go and get that
one. I wanted to just ask you about presenting, because it occurred to me that when we got in contact last year about would you come and do the awards for us, and we had lots of lovely feedback about you presenting and what you did and how everybody felt. But it occurred to me, I don't know actually if I'm aware that you ever presented anything such as like in person? I know you do podcasts. I know, but often you're the panelist. Have you ever done presenting before? Is that something that comes naturally to you?
I'd never presented an awards show or any kind of award before. That was very much new. So yeah, that was a first, and I was a bit nervous about that. I think my worst nightmare was to get the name of a player wrong or
Oh, yeah.
mispronounce it. There was one I did mispronounce, and I felt really bad for it. But I do still blame your handwriting, in
Fine.
fairness.
No, it's Abby's handwriting. Abby's
Oh,
handwriting all
Abby's
the way.
handwriting. The
Yeah.
thing is, no, and I'm only joking there. It was my fault. But I'd sort of had the names, researched the names. But the one thing you don't actually get very easily is the pronunciation of the names.
Mm,
So quite a few of the names, I was kind of having to go through the internet seeing if I can find
yeah.
someone pronouncing the name. And I'd done all of that, but just on the spot, that one name got past me, and I really kicked myself for that because I was like, oh, it's such a shame to sort of mar someone's special day by butchering their name, and it was truly dreadful. My attempt, it was it was one of those ones that I was like, oh man, I don't even got any of the
Oh,
sounds correct in that one. But yeah, that was the only thing that I was really worried about. Was like, you've got all
yeah.
these names, and you are, I'm studying up to see who they are and why they're special.
Yeah.
But it is hard to pronounce something. You know how when you're a kid, you grew up with footballers, and they had names that were often mispronounced by English commentators. And then when you get older, you realise there's a proper way of saying it, but it's too late. It's a bit like that.
Yeah.
If you start calling someone something in your head, even if you're then told it's a different way, it's really hard to correct that. That's what I learned.
Um. Okay. Looking back over then at the last year, and from that, and obviously knowing that you were coming back, and there is a question about this in a little bit, but who have you kept an eye on? Who is because when you've done something, so, and I find it when I do the odd bit of ground hopping, I find myself just keeping a slight eye on that club that I've been to. So what have you kept an eye on? What have you spotted in the last
Yeah,
year?
well, I keep an eye on pretty much anyone who won one of the awards. If I see their name pop up, they stick in my head. But clubs wise, there's a few that I suppose I follow them on Twitter, so I
Mm,
see the results pop up, and then every now and again I'll just do a little check to see, is this a freak good result or bad result? So, yeah, I mean Binfield, I've been keeping a
mhm.
little eye on them. I remember from the last awards, Windsor and Eton's been a pretty interesting story, so had a look at them. Caversham,
Yeah.
Caversham are just characters online anyway, so you want to see what Caversham are doing because it's always interesting. Ascot United been popping up a lot this season. Slough Town. So to be honest, I'm across quite a lot of what's been going on in the region, and it's really nice because it just gives me a reason to,
Mm.
on a weekend, to keep an eye out for another set of scores and to have an investment in certain certain players and certain results. I find it really enjoyable.
I think your wife would probably agree here in that what you really need in your life is more football to follow.
I think she's probably quite glad that it's at least more local. If I want to slip out to a Reading YMCA game, I'm back by that night. If I want to go to my usual haunts, I'm off to Palau or Mongolia. I think she's probably quite encouraged by it. If you just get it a bit more local, just
Yeah.
to get your obsession to be a little bit more sort of in tune with family life.
I'm just popping up the M4. Okay, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
fine, good. As long as it's not an M4 in Pompeii, we're good.
Yeah, no, I think because obviously I did get to go to that Reading
Mm,
YMCA day, which I really enjoyed, and I think we were both sort of a bit shocked by the fact I could go to a football match and come back like a few hours later.
yeah.
Because usually, if I'm off to a game, it's like, yeah, I'm off to San Marino. I'm really sorry, I do have to do this. I'll be back in 2.5 days' time. Whereas
Oh,
this time, it was like
tough.
it was a dream.
So it's so tough to have to go abroad and visit these very fine places for you. But well, I mean, having said that, we'll come to this in a minute. But I have seen some film of where you have been in the past, and actually maybe slightly less glamorous. It's not quite the same. Talking of the YMCA day, my following question was just going to be: we had a great day at the YMCA, didn't we? That was. that was really good. There is going to be you'll have to blink and you miss it, but there is a slight musical nod to the YMCA, a Reading YMCA, not the actual. We're not going to play YMCA, but there is a musical nod just before the awards start towards Reading YMCA. But it was a good day, and it was really great to see you sort of off the clock.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a great game as well. In its own, it was a really odd game, I've got to say. But having not watched a lot of live football recently, it was really nice just to get out to a live match. And I didn't have a huge amount of expectations on the football itself, but it was a pretty lively game, wasn't it? With a couple of red cards and a couple of incidents of note, and yeah, really nice atmosphere, lovely place to be, brilliant food. Really enjoyed that. And I mean, they'd one match day experience, which I think is, you know, it tipped me off that this was going to be enjoyable, but it was lovely, like a really nice day out, and the weather was sensational. It's probably the best day we've had. Well, we haven't had a better day since, have we, for weather? And that was back in what, March, was it?
Yes, I think it was March, wasn't it?
We've had a day as sunny as that since, barely. But yeah, I had a great time with it. The only thing is, unless I missed it, they didn't play YMCA over the PA system, and I feel like that should be the music the teams come out to, surely.
Yeah. That it feels like a missed opportunity. Although, having said that, maybe their excuse might be, I'm not sure they have a PA system.
Oh yeah, come to think of it, I didn't hear any PA system. So that is a fair excuse. You'd have to have people singing it. You'd have to have the players belting out like a national anthem.
I mean, there's an idea. We can pitch this to them. They are nominated again for Matchday Experience this year. They are on the shortlist. We can pitch that to them when they arrive. We can have that very serious conversation.
Absolutely, I'm sure it will go very well.
Just on hitting the road, and Paul, please, you don't necessarily have to come to all of these going forward, but we will be aiming to do 2 hitting the roads next season, one on the women's game and one in the men's game, and we will decide where those are going to be. We have a fairly good idea where the women's one's going to be early in the season, and we'll figure out where the men's one's going to be. Maybe let's see who wins Matchday Experience, and we'll have
I
think
presume
about
that was part of it. You see, I presume that was sort of whoever wins. It's like Eurovision. If you win Matchday Experience, you have to host, right?
It seems reasonable to me. I think it was a good jumping off point for it. Whether that continues, let's see. I mean, knowing the club that has won, we will have a lovely time, and I can't be more vague than that. I can be more vague, actually.
You haven't given it away there, really, have you?
No, I don't think so. They're all great. All 4 clubs are fantastic. So, right, that I think is the admin out the way. And in fact, we did have one question, which I will just move up in my little list here, which was related to the awards before we finished the admin, and it was very quickly. What convinced you to say yes to hosting the awards for the second year?
I really enjoyed it. I loved doing it the first time. I was really almost relieved to be asked to do it again, because I really hoped I did a good job, and it's a really nice thing to do. Like I don't know if people have the I suppose you've said about my professional life and how some of it can seem really attractive. Like you're going to wherever, San Marino, and you've got this trip, and actually what I really love is getting to do stuff in this country, because obviously I don't have to go away a long way. I can chat to people a bit closer to home, and I just really enjoyed hanging out with some football people in this country. So often when you're out doing a journalistic assignment, especially abroad, it can be quite exhausting, but also you're trying to relate to people, and often there's a language barrier, or culturally it's really hard to get messages across, whereas here you're just hanging out with a load of people who also love football, some of them even more than I do, judging by some of the stories from sort of the fans of the season and the volunteers. I was like, wow, okay, even I don't take it that far. So actually, it's a really nice experience, the whole thing. Like, what's not to like? You're in a brewery, there's really nice food and booze, and there's friendly people. So that's a pretty nice way to spend your evening, really.
Which does remind me, I do need to get your order before the night. Okay, let's move on to the Paul Watson corner. It's not really a corner; it's more of a half. The Paul Watson half of the situation. So we've had some questions in, which I'm just going to just go through, no particular order. However, we did have one question from one of our team who said, "Did you even try the fish heart?"
Oh, so in the Soccer Man, there's a scene where Matt eats a fish heart, which he's told is like a local thing that everyone
Yes.
must do. So the thing is, the scene looks like we've just shown up, and I've just said, "No way, I'm doing that." We've been on the island. I've been on the island for 16 months at that point. So I kind of thought, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do the fish heart. But the first time I went to that shop, I think maybe they said the same thing, but I was with Dilshan, who was my sort of right
Yeah.
hand man, and he laughed and said, "Nah, it's all right, mate. You don't actually have to do that." But I was quite delighted to watch Matt do it.
Yes.
But
He
the
seemed
thing is, it looks on the film like I've literally just arrived on the island. They say there's this important thing you must do, and I've gone, nah. But it was actually partly my grumpiness at the fact that we were. In fact, this comes through in a few things. We were like weeks away from taking this team for their first ever game, and the pressure on us. And part of my grumpiness is because I feel like I should be focusing on the training and getting this team together, and we keep having to do these things that are really important to show the culture of the island on the documentary. But I'm like, do I have to go to the fish art place again?
So, this is the sort of stuff that that they do on. My wife's been watching the Amanda Holden and Alan Carr thing,
Yeah.
where they go and transform a place in Spain or Italy, and they're doing all this work, and then they have to go off and do some fancy wine tour or something, and it's that kind of bit to bring the culture forward, right? And
Yeah, and there's also, and this is the nature of it. Like a documentary is, the story that it tells is all correct. Like there's a wider truth. There's nothing in that documentary that is like properly misleading. But obviously, you don't just literally have a camera follow you for the whole time and then piece it together in order. So there's quite a few things where chronologically this scene is actually being filmed is months after the instance actually happened. So we're recreating something, or I'm having to do a line again, or something's been used to demonstrate something else. So there's quite a few of those where if you're the person in it, you're like, yeah, I get that I'm saying that, but I'm not saying it about that. It's been used for that.
yes,
But it's all fine because in the end, the story works, and there's nothing in the story I don't believe is accurate. But it's quite funny on individual instance. You feel like the world's most petty man because you're like, well, I did say that, but actually I wasn't talking about that specific thing in that shot. So you look terrible, but you're like, I get it.
So just for anybody that doesn't know, this is the documentary "The Soccer Men" by your friend Matt Conrad, and it chronicles your time in Pompeii, managing the Pompeii football team that became part of your book, Up Pompeii. Is that right? I've got that absolutely right, I think.
All right, yeah. And so this was the whole thing started out with originally with this idea of who are a national team we could play for, because we weren't going to play for England, and we'd watched a sort of England Andorra game. This was back 2007 2008, and that question comes up of, well, could we play for Andorra? And obviously we couldn't. We certainly couldn't at the moment, with them only losing 1-0 to England. But even back in those days, we weren't good enough for that, however delusional we were. And so it was this sort of, well, how low could you go and naturalize for a country and play for them? And that's the starting point, the drop-off point for this whole story that unfolds with moving to Micronesia to coach a football team that were labeled the world's worst football team. And that became Up Pompeii. And then Matt, who was my mate and sort of my partner on the project, was filming quite a lot of it, and that became this documentary, The Soccer Men, which has taken a lot longer, but that's because documentaries are just so hard to make, and he had quite a few misfortunes, like Next Goal Wins suddenly appearing, and that was about American Samoa's first win, and that became really big, and there was a Hollywood film, and that just makes that whole process of putting a documentary out really hard. You have to give a lot of space between that and your one, otherwise people say, oh, I think I've seen that, it's the one about American Samoa. And you're like, okay, you can't really get your story through them.
It's not been picked up yet, am I right? So people at the moment, we're talking about it. You and I are talking about it. I've seen it. It's amazing. I would say it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster from joy to just and I see a very different Paul to the guy that I've met a few times now. It's like sweary Paul, for example, is there, and frustrated Paul and ill Paul is there as well. There's all these different facets to you, which is, it's normal person, right? But as I say, it's not been. It's not. You're hoping it should. We're hoping it gets picked up somewhere. That is that.
Yeah, the way it kind of works, and I'm only learning this because I'm not a movie person. What happens is you do all the festival circuit, and that's what's going on at the moment. So it's going into festivals in Palermo, Slovenia, Austria. Sadly, not at the moment any UK festivals, which is a shame. Like I think we've applied for a few, it just hasn't happened. I think there's loads. There's always so many applicants.
Yeah.
But the ones is it goes through the festival circuit, and then it goes to a distributor, and they try and put it into streaming services. And the more media and the more kind of praise there is around a project, the better shot it's got of getting the interest of an Amazon or a Netflix or a whatever else you watch stuff on. So that we're in that kind of campaign stage at the moment where we're trying to get as many people talking about it, but weirdly we can't actually show it to them directly. We can show clips and we can send it to press, but we can't just show it to the general public, because obviously we did that, there wouldn't be anything to sell, because then if it goes to Amazon, everyone would be like, well, I watched that for free.
I've seen it already.
So it's a really weird process, isn't it? Promoting something that you can't direct people to. And it is frustrating because quite a lot of people have said, "Guy, I love the look of this. I love the sound of the film. Can I watch it?" And you're like, well, no, not yet. But the dream is it will land somewhere next year, and that would be amazing, not just for us but also for Micronesia and football in the region, to get that visibility about some of the challenges. Because we joke about my role in this and Matt's role in this, and we're the stepping point helping you into the island. We're the idiot abroad that helps you into this island culture, but really the heroes are the players, the stars are the players. And it's all about this island culture where football has not been given a chance to survive, but it continues to carry on, through the cracks in the pavement. This sport just carries on going. And the passion these players feel, and the way this sport allows them to express themselves in a way that nothing else has, that's the real story. And hopefully if we could bring this to a wider audience, there's just a hope more help will be on its way for the region.
When is the Pompey women's team happening?
Oh, that's a very good question. So we had quite a unique situation in Pompey that the women and men played on the same field without there being any problem with that culturally at all. So we went in with this thought of, we're going to have to fight approaches to women playing football, and we're going to have to be these sort of like bastions for protecting the right of women to play. No one cared if women were playing or not. They were very happy to play alongside women. None of them were actually in that final team that we took abroad, but in the league we had, there were women in several of the teams. So actually it's a weird thing that in some ways that's a real positive, but the only way it's not perhaps is that it's harder then to say we want to have women specific programs, because people are like, well, why do you need that? Culturally, there's not an atmosphere where you need that. But actually, I think it is quite useful to have that, right? Because it allows you to then take that arm of the game away and run with it and put women in charge of it. And that's a lot harder to do if that's not separate, because the men will be like, well, I'm running football. So I do it in a weird way. It was quite a complex issue that in Pompey. And women's football has perhaps weirdly suffered because of that. It's almost unique, isn't it? And I've dealt with a fair few places, especially through CONIFA and non-recognised places, and almost a university. I mean, it's true in the recognised game too. Almost university across the board, women's football is being underfunded, under-prioritised. Women are not being given positions. Men are manipulating the women's game for their own benefit. Many, many, many problems all over the world. But weirdly, Micronesia just had this slightly unique but also quite counterproductive way of doing things in terms of women's football. And it's really, I've not come across it in many other places, but it came from a place of having a real lack of prejudice against women playing football. But it actually, definitely manifested in a way that it was quite hard to encourage it.
This is the Soccer Men. Obviously you can't see it right now as this podcast goes out, but keep an eye out. If you see the Soccer Men anywhere, watch it. It's fantastic. Like any good football or sports thing, it's so little to do with the actual playing of football. It's about everything around it. It's all that stuff. It's all of that kind of thing. And our guest today, Paul Watson, was forefront of that with his friend Matt Conrad. So please do, if you see it available sometime next year, please watch it. Paul, moving on to other things then. We've had one question. I'd be interested to know your opinions on the expansion of the World Cup finals from 32 to 48 nations. Is it an opportunity for smaller nations to qualify versus an unwieldy tournament and player welfare concerns? It's quite a big question. Let's not spend too much time on it because I'm sure you've talked about this elsewhere.
Yeah, but it's a very good question. So naturally, I'm coming at this with my perspective from the underdog perspective. So there is a really, really good side to the growth of the tournament. It provides a lot of nations with a chance to have a first World Cup. And I think first World Cup is such a special thing. Whatever country it is, this is going to give generations of children a reason to play this sport. So I'm thinking of, first-time qualifiers Uzbekistan, Jordan, potential first-time qualifiers like Venezuela, even Curacao. These are places that haven't been able to get there in the past, and now they have this exciting event. But I do totally take on board the fact this tournament itself is, I think, to be fair, going to be less enjoyable, and it is unwieldy, and I think it is probably too much. And I think part of what's special about World Cups is that every game is exciting, and I think there'll be a bit less of that just for being more games. I think that's a fair point, and I do think player welfare too. What I will say on player welfare though is, before we start chopping World Cups, why don't we start chopping these pre-season jaunts, like these endless tournaments in Dubai, or obviously things to keep sponsors happy. But Man United were on a plane to was it Singapore,
Malaysia or Singapore, wasn't it?
But they barely waited for full-time whistle to go in the Europa League before they're on a plane. It's you got to look at those things surely first. But yeah, there is good and bad for sure.
Yeah, it's a difficult way. There are so many angles to it. What with it being a world tournament, that it's a big question. I think you've covered it nicely there, Paul. Another question: what do you make of really well covered here in Berkshire? What do you make of Greenland's CONCACAF application being rejected?
Well, I'm kind of
big topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to be asked that, because it's only happened about under 24 hours ago that this news came out. So yeah, I am devastated for Greenland, because it doesn't sit right at all. So there's a very brief background to Greenland's kind of football history. Football's been played there for decades, and there are a lot of geographical challenges to that. Like, for example, their outdoor national championships can only be a week long because the weather barely holds for longer than that. They actually have regional qualifiers too, so it's a bit more than a week this season, but they can't play outdoors for most of the year round. But despite all these challenges being thrown at them, they've kept the sport running. And it's interesting to think they actually have the same status as the Faroe Islands. So they're part of the Kingdom of Denmark, but they are in many ways sort of autonomous, which is the same as the Faroes. But while the Faroes applied to UEFA years ago, got in, and now have built themselves into a nation that can compete, very well in UEFA, Greenland just didn't apply at that time. And then UEFA shut the door. UEFA closed to all but independent nations. Now, Gibraltar still got in by going to the Court of Arbitration for Sport and winning a case to be forced. UEFA were forced to let them in. But that was because Gibraltar had already applied to UEFA and been rejected before that rule was brought in. Greenland had not. So Greenland was quite uniquely left out in the cold. It's in a place where it can't get in. So they started to look to CONCACAF and saying, look, why can't we go to CONCACAF? Actually, geographically speaking, it's not that different to Europe in terms of how accessible these places are to us. And they've been doing amazing work, like putting together national training camps. They've got a brilliant coach, Morten Rutja. They've done an amazing amount of development work, and Greenland's football program is flourishing. So there was such a build of optimism around this application, and the sense that maybe CONCACAF would make sense, partly because a lot of CONCACAF nations are territories rather than a lot of their members are territories rather than nations. So there was a lot of reasons to be hopeful, and then for it to be unanimously rejected, which means every one of those members has rejected it just doesn't
Mm.
sit right with me. And I suspect there's something political afoot here, but I guess all football is politics and politics is football. So it's really sad. And where it leaves them
Yeah.
is not able to compete, which I think everyone deserves the right to have that opportunity.
Are we suggesting that perhaps apply again in 3.5 years without wishing to get too deep into that political aspect?
Yeah, quite possibly. And I was looking into this, and I think it's quite blurry because I guess this hasn't happened much. But I think, as far as I'm aware, this is why I'm not a statutes person. As far as I'm aware, they are allowed to reapply, but they can't appeal the decision to not be
Right.
allowed in. So this process has temporarily been parked. The only sad thing is the momentum they've been building, and this amazing Danish coach they've got, and they're getting a lot of support in that kind of in that way. That might peter out a bit because I think it
Mm.
was all building to this crescendo of like, and now we're in, or even if they're not in, and now here's a pathway. I thought that was a possibility. They'd be given a year
Yeah.
to do X, but it's so untransparent. It appears literally the message they've been sent is no, and that's it. There's not even a no, because as far as I can see, the guys in Greenland seem to be saying we've just been told no. And I just think in any process, if you apply for something, especially something as big as this, you deserve at least a little feedback as to why you were rejected.
Yeah. Yeah. That does feel like the right that what should happen, but obviously, that's clearly not happening.
Mm.
Um, sorry, I was going to say, I think there's definitely you maybe sound slightly surprised that our readership would be across that, but I think there's a surprisingly large crossover between non-league football in Berkshire and the Sweeper Pod audience. I
All
suspect,
right. Yeah. Well,
there's a
yeah,
decent crossover there. So
yeah, and we definitely were on it and pretty aghast by that news last night. It's been nice to see the outpouring of support,
mm,
from people from all over, because I think that resonates, right? That especially because there's such a big message made of the games for everyone. There's all these
yeah,
slogans that are basically like everyone gets a chance to play the sport, and it's like, well, this is specifically a case where you have a very footballing active population
mm,
who are being told no. I'd get it if it was like an island with no interest in football,
mm,
or if there were like 30 people on this island.
yeah,
But you're talking a significant population base, bigger than other CONCACAF members, definitely by some
yeah,
distance, and they're just being told it's not
yeah.
for you, and that just really winds me up. That kind
It
of thing.
it it does seem strange that you can't just be a member, like turning up at your local. I was going to say gentleman's club, but I don't mean gentleman's. I mean like turning up at the I don't know whatever the members clubs are that you have around, and just like becoming a member on the door. It does seem a little bit strange that you can't just do that. But hey, there we go. It's obviously deeper machinations than we are aware of. I've got two more very quick questions, I think. Now that you've had a taste of international football, now that obviously was a little while ago, but would you ever? And I've crossed out the word Berkshire here because I thought it was interesting to widen it out. Now that you've had a taste of international football, would you ever consider managing a club?
Oh, it's funny. So I did in Mongolia for a
Oh,
while.
of course you did.
So
Thimphu City.
yeah, well, so the thing is, when I came back from Micronesia, and what you're seeing in the film is me at 27, I
Mm,
was definite I wanted to be a coach. That was all I wanted. And then when I got home, I realized my CV just didn't translate to anything. Nobody even knew what Micronesia was.
mm,
And so I found I was applying for these jobs where like it was a mixture. I'd apply for non-league jobs in this country, and nobody would really know who I was or why I was applying, and my CV would just look really weird, so I get ignored. But then on the other side, I had this weird bit of me that was like, well, I've done an international job. Why don't I just apply for the Bahrain job? And similarly, quite understandably, again, complete silence. So by the time I did get a job in Mongolia, a little bit of me had started to think maybe this wasn't the
mm,
pathway. And then the Mongolia job ended up with me owning the club, which is an unusual pathway as well. And that then from there, I went on to organising the Kanifa World Cup. So I almost weirdly sort of went up from player to coach to director to organizer. Like I sort of got moved into a different segment of the game and found it suited me a bit better, really.
mm,
Like, I think my skills were just better suited to um, a different part of the game that I didn't even really know
mm.
was there. So no, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd go back into coaching now. I don't think I was very good at it. I just don't think it was really quite my strongest suit. And I think yeah, I'm happier not being in it. But also, to be honest, the demands around having a family, it
Mm.
just this time in my life, it would just be impossible. I think I'm actually really in awe of the people who do make this work alongside jobs and family.
Mm.
It's an incredible commitment, isn't it? And I think you don't really realize that until you get to maybe a stage in your life where you think, God, how is it that people are doing this? And it's all just because they love it, right? There's no one's doing this to get rich at
Yeah,
non-league level.
exactly.
And it's amazing people do it. But yeah, I don't think I could, either in terms of being a good enough coach or in terms of balancing it with my life.
It's yeah. I spoke to Scott Davis, the Slough manager, last week for a podcast that hasn't come out yet, for a thing it's not a secret thing, but it's just to promote something else, and that'll be it. And just the demands on his time as a National League South manager, it was just incredible. It never stops, and you'll hear more about that in a podcast that I haven't released yet. So, Paul, we're doing the similar things here, talking about things that you can't actually listen to or see. So,
Yeah.
handy. One final question. Guernsey and Jersey have the Marathi vase. Is it time we introduce a Berkshire v Buckinghamshire version, and what would it be called? It says here that we could do Paul and Matt versus Tom and Abby as managers. I don't know what I presume you would manage you and Matt would manage Buckinghamshire, although I don't know how you would go about sourcing your players for that.
Yeah, I probably found it easier in Pompeii. I also feel a bit like you're giving us to Buckinghamshire. It suggests that you think you can beat us because of us at the helm. I think you might be right.
It's a good point. I suppose. I'm assuming that we could get players.
Does this not exist though? Is there not a counties?
So there is that. So there's like for the youth teams. There's you've got the county FAs have. I think it's under 21 and under 18 teams or something like that in the men's and the women's side of it. So I don't know whether they're still going. I assume that's still going on. I know the Berks, because Berks and Bucks is one county FA, so they won it a few years ago. But yeah, it's certainly available for youth levels. But what they'd make of us all turning up managing the kids of tomorrow, I don't know.
Yeah, and I do think when I did go to Pompeii, obviously one of the advantages I had was I think they naturally assumed, wrongly, this is a bad thing, but they naturally assumed that someone coming from another country would have a superior level of knowledge to them, so they were likely to be deferential. Whereas if I went in with my credentials now and tried to coach a Buckinghamshire team, I think quite quickly some questions might be raised about exactly who I was to push them around.
And certainly as a football manager, having done it a little bit a few years ago, I'm definitely more of a vibesman than a good atmosphere guys. That's I'm much more of that than a tactical genius. Or
you could be an AFCON, like one of those guys who shows up at AFCON and just like one of those European coaches who barely seems to do anything but just shows up at AFCON with a team who are incredibly talented and watches. Which was always my dream, basically, to do that. It's funny you say in the documentary I'm very sweary, and it's true. It's because I'm so unsweary in normal life. But I think the amount you have to swear to be a football coach is pretty prodigious, I think. I've noticed this from watching pretty much any coach. Like the amount of swearing that is done is phenomenal. I think in Pompeii I swore about as much as I've ever sworn. It was still, by the standards of a professional coach, it was trivial, wasn't it? Really, I think that I'd have to get my swearing game up and running again to coach Buckinghamshire.
Paul Watson, host of the Berkshire Football Awards 2025. Thank you very much for your time today. I really look forward to seeing you next week on the 18th of June. Tickets are still on sale. Come and have a rural pie. Come and have a lovely time. Come and watch some brilliant people win things. And just come and see Paul. Come and see us. Come and have a lovely time. Oh, and some lovely beer as well. So soft drinks also available, I should say. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you. Really enjoying, really good, really enjoyed it, and also really looking forward to next week.